I want to welcome everyone to this demonstration of taskTracker. We're going to go over a high-level view of what taskTracker is and what it has to offer. We won't be doing a very deep dive. We'll just be hitting the top surface of things. So know that any questions that you have, you can always reach out to me at jamie@advancedscoreboards.com, or you can call the number, or you can visit our website at asbtasktracker.com. And if you scan that QR code, it'll take you right there. As mentioned earlier, I'm Jamie Sharp. I'm a PGA professional and founder of ASB taskTracker. My email's right there, so please reach out to me if you have any questions as we move through the demo. Now, as you may or may not know, our program was really brought out of the labor side of things. That was where we were getting the most questions, and if you look on your budget, you'll probably see that the highest line item is labor. So we wanted to make sure that we were accurately reporting how much labor we were spending in certain areas. And that was the whole goal, to be able to tell that to the committees, to be able to tell that to the GMs, to be able to tell it to the owners and municipalities, whoever's asking, to be able to accurately and transparently reflect how much money was being spent in certain areas and allow them to make an informed decision on what to do with a budget. So what you're looking at right here is a labor board, and this is where you're going to spend 90% of your time. You'll see that we've assigned our employees, Ivan, Bill, all those, Harvey, they're all assigned, and then we've given them jobs, and you can apply. So you can go ahead and assign as many jobs as you like to them. So it may be one, it may be 5 jobs. We have a duration of how long that job is estimated to take, and then we can also assign equipment to those jobs. And the nice thing about assigning equipment, and our system makes it really easy to assign equipment, is it makes the employee more accountable when they jump on that piece of equipment. They know that they want to return that equipment in good working condition. And if something does happen, they want to report that damage to the equipment or the issue that they're having with that equipment, because they know that they were on that last and someone's going to come asking for it. So having that equipment assigning is really important. The other things is to be able to see when someone is trained on a certain piece of equipment or trained to do a certain job. This helps minimize liability in case there is an accident, to know that that employee was properly trained to do the job or to take out that piece of equipment. The platform also allows you to do notes and what we call geo notes and a bunch of other things that make your job more efficient and allow you to communicate that information back to the employees during the morning meeting. As you can see down below, there's turf management, which we can do mow patterns, hide cuts, chemicals, and growing degree days. And I'll be covering some of that in this demo. I also want to point out an important feature, and you'll see it throughout this presentation, is I'll put a picture of a phone and what it looks like when it lays out on a phone. And the reason we do that is because we are one of the only companies that really focus on making sure the phone application is just as good as the desktop application. And our system's called responsive, meaning you go to the same website on the phone as you do on your computer, and it lays out completely different. On the phone, you can save this to your home screen. It acts like a native app, and you can go ahead and make changes from the field very seamlessly and easily without pinching and zooming. This is the job board that the employees are going to see. Now, there's a lot of features that go along with this job board, which I won't cover, but if you want to do something, there's a good chance someone's already made that recommendation and we've put that in the system. But you can see Ivan can come in, he can see his first and second jobs. If you want, you can show him how long you think that job should take. If you look at Jerry, you can see some jobs have what we call PPE on there, and they can go ahead and see what type of protective equipment they need to take with them for that job to be done safely and successfully. If you look at maybe Bill Brown, you can see that he's got equipment assigned to him. So he's got a GM2. So when he mows greens, he knows he's taking the GM2 with him when he goes out for that first job. And then we have notes and a whole bunch of different types of notes. We have countdown clocks, which you see the member guest. This is a static page, but this clock would be counting down to the member guest. Or maybe you want to count up from last time there was an accident. Whatever it is you want to put as a countdown or count up clock, we can do it. The really great thing is we're thinking about not how to make the superintendent's job a little bit easier, but also how to connect the clubhouse and everyone else to that person, to the superintendent or anyone who's using this platform. And we do that with Microsoft and Google Calendars. So if you already have your stuff in a Google Calendar, your events, maybe your tournaments, maybe your wedding events, or maybe you have your spray events in there, or maybe you have certain things in the calendar that you want to be able to show on taskTracker, you can go ahead and import those into our system. It's a live import, so as you make changes, it changes here. And you can choose to share that with numerous people. You can share that with the display board so employees know when a tournament's coming up. As a pro, I always like to throw a surprise shotgun every once in a while towards Jerry. So if I put that on the calendar, he can see that on Saturday, maybe we have a shotgun. He can go ahead and ask a few questions. Is it reverse? Is it forward? Do we need to have anything special put out there? It really helps keep him in the loop. I used it for my outside service guys. They could see when tournaments are coming up, and that helped them schedule to make sure that they were successful in what we wanted to accomplish as well. As I mentioned, scheduling. We just briefly touched about that now, so it's a good segue into this slide. You can schedule employees throughout our program, and employees can actually have a portal where they can see their schedules. So I haven't used a paper schedule in 3 years. You can go ahead and put their paper schedule, their regular schedule up here, and they can use the employee mobile to log in and see that schedule. They can also make a request for days off, or maybe they need to swap with someone. They can make a request to swap. The nice thing about that is if they make a request to swap, someone else has to agree to that request before you're even notified, so you're not the middleman trying to figure out who's going to be the one that's going to be swapping. As soon as there's a notification of an agreement, you get a text message. You can go into the app. You can go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and approve this. And then both of those employees will get notifications that that swap has been approved and your schedule automatically be altered. So it makes it really easy to manage your crew. Now, you don't have to use it completely like I'm using it, where I'm putting every person's time and when I want them to show up and when their shift ends. You can use it just for days off. So if someone has a wedding request and you want to remember that Bill's not going to be around on Friday, Saturday, you can just throw a day off in there. And then when that comes up on the board, you're going to remember, oh yes, I don't want to schedule Bill today. He's got that day off, even though he normally maybe works on Fridays or Saturdays. So scheduling, really helpful. Time management. If you're interested, we can keep track of clock in and clock out. So if you're still using paper schedules or the time machine or whatever it is, you can do this via a kiosk or on the mobile. They can clock in and clock out. The nice thing is they can also take that one step farther and then clock in and clock out at jobs. And we can actually get accurate, specific times of how much they spent on each individual job if you want to drill down to that level of precision. You can also set permissions for them to be able to add new jobs to their platform. So maybe you don't assign it, maybe they self-assign, or maybe you want them to be able to edit a note, or you want them to do a lot of other things that help you out to be more efficient. You can set certain people up with permissions to do those tasks within their mobile version, which you're seeing right here. The equipment, this is a giant platform. It's as big as the labor program. We've invested a lot of time and money. We've consulted with a lot of technicians. We've seen a lot of good traction here with other programs that they tend to prefer our program and the fact that it's very easy to use. So as you can see from the computer side monitor here, we list all of our equipment. We can tell you what piece of equipment's up, what piece of equipment's down, what piece of equipment has work orders due. And the nice thing about work orders is we can schedule preventative work orders that'll automatically feed into the system. And you can choose a work order from one of our hundreds of work orders that we have already pre-programmed, our service intervals. They can go ahead and drill down and say, I want to do these service intervals for that equipment. And they can also create work orders on the fly. Now, when you're doing service intervals, you know that can extend the longevity of the equipment. It can make it more valuable towards the end of its life if you're going to resell it. So there's a lot of benefits to making sure your preventative maintenance schedule is being followed and adhered to. And as you know, the more that equipment's probably being maintained on the front end, the less chance there's going to be breakdown in the season when you probably need that piece of equipment the most. You can also tag equipment with QR codes. So if you're in the app version, you can go ahead and hit this QR code. It'll bring up a camera, you scan it, it'll bring you right to that piece of equipment, and you can do your work orders. You can look at who's been on that piece of equipment. You can adjust the hours. You can adjust the status of that equipment. And if you want, you can give that access to employees. And you don't even have to create an account in our system. You can set QR codes to be public or private, so meaning they need an account or they don't. But if it's public, an employee can scan that QR code and they can write a note to the technician. Maybe the piece of equipment is idling rough or it's not cutting properly, and you want to send a note back to the technician. The technician will get a text message, and he can go ahead and create a work order based off of that note. It makes the turnaround of finding out what the problem and fixing the problem a lot shorter in a lot of cases when that can happen. Employees can also look at work orders, and if they have permissions, they can assign work orders and do work orders, or they can create work orders. They can also add fuel to the equipment. So maybe they scan the QR code and say they put 5 gallons of fuel into a certain piece of equipment. They can adjust the hours of that equipment. So maybe you offload some of the mechanics duties of checking the hours to an employee when they get off that equipment. Maybe part of their end of the day is to scan the QR code, update the hours of that piece of equipment. So there's a lot of things that an employee can do, and you can set permissions on that simply by scanning a QR code. Now, if you're a course that has standards that you're trying to accomplish, or you just want to know what certain speeds are or certain temperatures are throughout the year, throughout multiple years, you can set up what we call measurements. And this allows you to track any type of measurement that you want, whether it's green speed, clipping yield, rainfall, air quality, whatever you want in here, we can track it, and then we can compare it against each other. So if it's green speeds, for instance, maybe you want to know in June, what's the typical green speed at? Oh, it's at a 10. Next year, what's your green speed? It's at 10.5. You're probably right on your standard. And you can follow that all the way out through the year or multiple years. You can also compare that to other measurements. So maybe we're taking a clipping yield and a green speed, and we want to see if there's any correlation between those. And maybe we want to actually look at if jobs affect green speeds. So maybe does rolling affect green speeds? Does mowing affect green speeds? How much? You can go ahead and compare when you did those jobs. So maybe you get a flush of growth on clipping yields, and you notice you haven't mowed greens in 3 days. That explains the flush of growth. Maybe not that your PGR is running out. And like I said, we think about the mobile side. So when you're out in the field and you want to put in a measurement, it lays out really nice. You go right to your green speed, add measurement, and you just type in the numbers for the greens that you measured or the green that you measured. And you don't have to do this every day. You can do this every other day or every week, whatever you fits your schedule. The other measurement that we kind of keep track of is we do keep track of our growing degree days. So this can go off a local weather station that you can purchase, or you can use just the local weather in your area, and it's automatically going to accumulate growing degree days. So here we have a Primo application put up, and you can kind of see here that we have growing degree days set at 200, and our forecast is indicating that we're at 267, so we're over our growing degree days, so it is red. It's prompting us to do a reapply, and you can kind of see every time that we reapplied throughout the season, we can see those reapply marks and then the cumulative growing from here. Now, if you don't have to reapply, it's going to be green. So that bar is going to be green, and it's a 5-day forecast. So that allows you to plan out if you're going to run out of your PGR at a certain time, maybe on Wednesday. You can go ahead and put out a spray on Tuesday or Wednesday and get that product down. That's going to help obviously maintain that growth regulator within the plant, so you don't get a flush of growth, you don't see green speeds drop off, you don't get inconsistencies between your green surfaces. So this lays out really nice for you in your mobile app on your workboard. The other thing we talked a little bit about Primo, but applications, being able to keep track of those applications is really important within our system. We partner with Playbooks, and we also partner with Sparks. It allows you to use their programs, but then we go ahead and import that data right into our taskTracker, and you can go ahead and fill out logs and view the dashboards, look at the records for your sprays, see how much active ingredient you're putting down, see how much nutrients you've put down in a certain area. This allows you to keep track of all that within our system. You just jump right into the Playbook system. When you need to make a change, you can do that right from our system. It'll port you right over to theirs. The other thing is safety. You notice those little triangles earlier on in the demonstration and labor. Well, safety is going to allow you to go ahead and create those cards to create those triangles. So whether you're creating a training card for a job or for a piece of equipment, you do it right here, and you assign that card to either that task or that equipment profile. And anytime someone's assigned that, they want to make sure they have been trained in that area. So if I'm training for greens, for instance, I may have a greens mowing training that I want someone to go through. If they don't have that, it's going to flag them. And the nice thing about that is if your staff is pretty consistent and your management is consistent, you probably know who's trained in what areas. But if you have some turnover or some turnover starts to happen, you don't necessarily know who's been trained on certain pieces of equipment or on certain jobs. By having those flags show up, it's going to indicate that you need to change the job, or you need to go ahead and get that person trained on that piece of equipment or the job that they're doing in order to do it successfully. And as you know, if you're training someone to do a job or a piece of equipment, it's going to help reduce your liability in case there is some kind of accident that happens out there. The other thing we want to talk about is the plan. So not only do we have the ability to create the labor board, but we have the ability to plan out weeks, months, years, however far in advance you want to plan out, and we can create multiple plans within the system. So you could have a golf course plan, you could have a tennis plan, you could have a bocce ball court plan. Whatever plan you want, you can create that plan, and that's going to feed into your job board. It's going to prompt you to say, we want to mow greens today, we want to be spraying, we want to be rolling. These are in your plan. If you do them, that plan is going to turn green. If you miss them, they're going to stay gray. And if you do something that wasn't planned, it's going to be blue in the system. So it's easy to see how well you stayed on track throughout your plan. And you can plan that a week out, a month out, and you can use it as much or as little as you want within the system. Over here, you're seeing on the mobile side, these are all the plans that need to happen today, and we can just go ahead and assign those to the employees that need to be doing them. And the last but not least, probably the biggest piece is our reporting. We do have a pretty robust reporting system. There's over 50 reports in the system, and you're going to see a new type of report, and you probably heard about this, but it's called embedded dashboards, but the ability to do business analytics in these things, to be able to manipulate charts and graphs. We will have that coming out in 2022, where we can go ahead and manipulate data within there and look at different scenarios, which we're very excited about. But here you're looking at fairways. As you know, mowing fairways is what most people think of when it comes to maintaining them, but here it tells a little different story. That's only 50% of the picture. The other 50% of the picture goes ahead and lies in all the other small stuff that goes on that add up to a pretty big picture. So when you show this to a committee or your GM or a municipality council or your owner, being able to show what each of these things do is really important to how it affects them as the player. Verticutting and top dressing all have an effect on the playability of the course and the rollout of the ball. That's going to affect the player, and those things become very important to the player if they know why you're doing them and how much time you're spending. So having the reports helps validate the money that you're spending within the club, other than what you just think of mowing fairways. All these other little things come in, and you can keep track of individual projects, HOA projects, tennis, clubhouse. So you know that you're saying if you spend more in tennis one year, it's not affecting your golf course budget. So there's a lot of great things you can do in here to keep track of different areas of where you're spending money. This kind of gives you a nice breakdown of how each of these groups that we're spending on. So we looked at greens and fairways. We saw the little individual tasks, but this gives you a whole overview of those tasks to say, okay, greens are our most expensive thing, followed by other, which is our equipment maintenance. So that is another high thing. Another thing is bunkers usually fall towards the top of that list as well. And depending on your golf course, you may have a lot of bunkers compared to the person down the street. So your budget's going to be influenced differently than that superintendent. Or your bunkers may be closer to the green, which indicates you have to probably hand mow more than maybe someone who doesn't have bunkers close to the green, which they can triplex. There's a lot of things that can affect that budget and affect the results, and also go ahead and affect the expectations of that player. So having these numbers in front of you is really easy. And again, on the mobile, you can pull these up right in a committee meeting, and you can go ahead and say, hey, this is what we're spending on bunkers. This is how much time we devoted to roughs. This is how much time we devoted to POHA control. Whatever you're looking to go ahead and convey, you can do that in the mobile side as well. And then our last feature, here's our calendar report, to be able to say, when did we do certain jobs and at what time? And did we really hit our plan that we were trying to do? So here we're looking at mowing kind of jobs versus rolling jobs, and mowings in red, rollings in purple. And if our goal was we wanted to mow every single day and and roll it on the days we didn't mow, or whatever the plan was, you can see we're pretty successful at that. If we're missing days, then we can say, man, why we missed so many days? What happened there? Was there too much play on the golf course that we couldn't get these important tasks done? Was it rainfall? We can look and see what the conditions were for that day. Maybe there was a lot of rainfall. That's why we weren't able to mow greens, or maybe it snowed, or whatever it is. We can go ahead and show you in this calendar report. So this gives you a nice breakdown of how everything kind of fell together throughout the year. Now, I know you have a lot of questions, and I encourage you to take a live look. Obviously, this is a demo, so I'm not going to be able to give you a live look here, but I encourage you to schedule a demo with us at asbtasktracker.com, or send me an email, and we'd be happy to get you on the books and answer any questions that you may have about taskTracker. I hope this helps you make a decision. One thing I will point out is we're the only company that offers a trial on these labor programs to go ahead and make sure that it's a program that you want to use. From our experience, we want to make sure that we don't want to sell you a program that it's not going to be compatible for your course, and we're confident that this program is. That's why we do offer a 30-day trial, and if you don't like it, we offer a money-back guarantee. So we encourage you all to reach out to us to do a live demo, and we look forward to talking to you.